How do you know when you're in a trauma bond relationship? And what are the first steps you need to start doing to work your way towards getting out of it? Let's talk about what a trauma bond is first, which is a very unhealthy and toxic bond between someone that's abusive, physically, mentally, and emotionally, or all the above, and manipulative towards a person that's being victimized, to where the person being victimized is conditioned and manipulated into believing that they need their abuser or there's no other way, right? Or they can't leave. So they stay bound to this person. Now, the reason it becomes a trauma bond is the trauma is built through the harsh treatment that the abuser always exerts on the victimized person, right? To where they're always either doing threats or physically harmful things or saying harmful words and all these things, right? But where it gets to be tricky and it gets to be kind of little sprinkles of things is after these very traumatic events is usually reinforced by small acts of kindness here and there that keeps instilling this false sense of hope that things will get better to the person being victimized. And they start to believe, okay, my abuser, they don't think of him as their abuser, my partner, right? It's usually what it's being vocalized as or thought of as. They just have these obstacles. They have struggles, controlling their temper, but they mean well. And he or she, they came and apologized for what they did, but they didn't really mean it. And all the while, you keep going through the cycle of the regular day-to-day life being a very toxic one and an unpleasant one. But these little glimpses of things are going to get better keeps you there. And a second huge reason why this is so effective is because the abusive person, through their manipulation, isolates the person being victimized to where they separate that person from support systems and friends and family and so forth around them that would otherwise help them kind of see what's going on, to where it's kind of a covert experience to where the person being victimized doesn't realize the kind of bond that's being built in this very traumatic way because there's no one outside of them, their situation, to help call it out. And with no one else around to provide a different perspective, the abusive person continues to mold and manipulate the person that's being victimized into believing there's no other way things can be, to where the person being victimized starts to have this belief that there's no escape. This is the only answer. This is the way life is. And they have to learn to live with it. To where they start to convince themselves that they actually need their abusive person because that's the only thing they can rely on and try to figure out in this kind of reverse engineer kind of way. And in that is where they start trying to find so much hope and something to feed their spirit and those little small glimpses of kindness that they experience from their abusive person, those little breadcrumbs that get dropped to help them keep holding on and making sense of why they're still in the situation. And ultimately, the person being abused starts to become very scared, confused, and heavily dependent on their abuser because this endless cycle of constant negative reinforcement by way of fear and so forth and creating doubt in the person that's being victimized. And then with occasional positive reinforcement to string along the sense of hope. And that cycle can become very addictive and hard to break. Some key signs that you're actually in a trauma bond relationship are when you, one, defend the abuse itself. Two, you agree with the reasons for why your partner is being abusive towards you. And three, you try to cover for your partner and make up reasons and answers to make sense when people are seeing things around you that aren't making so much sense for the way you're being treated. And ultimately, if you get very defensive and upset when someone tries to intervene with the toxicity they see you're experiencing, these are all key signs you're definitely in a trauma bond relationship. So the three most important things you have to begin doing today, if you're going to break this bond, to sever that addiction and start to work away from it. It's going to be a journey. But if you're going to begin this the right way, you have to first reconnect with your outside support systems or find support systems. The friends and family members that maybe you've cut out or you've been distanced from, you have to get yourself reconnected with them. Reconnect with people that are going to support a healthy result for you. Support what's actually good for you and try to breathe life into, let you know that, hey, you have someone there to help you walk that road and you're not on your own. Even if you need to go get professional help, counseling, therapy, coaching, what have you, anything that's going to start to breed more positivity into your equation and not leave you in this cycle of toxicity. Second, we need a new perspective on what's possible. You have to be able to build against all your mind's wiring right now because your brain's going to tell you, no, you need to stay here. This is the only answer. There can be no other way that life can be. You have to challenge your mind and say, hey, if it could be different, if I could be outside this relationship, not with this person, what would it look like? What would need to happen? What feels good to you, right? Tap into how would you like to feel? How would you like life to be? And spend more time crafting out what would need to happen for that reality to exist. And stop allowing yourself to be convinced that this is the only way things can go and that there's no hope and you can't escape and there's no other answer. Don't convince yourself of that. That is a lie that your manipulator, your abuser, your partner wants you to believe. So first we have reconnecting with support systems to stop being isolated. Second, a new perspective, a new, vision on what life can be and the motivation to want to go have it be that. And then the third thing you need to do, which is so crucial to all this working effectively, is you need to set boundaries. And remember, setting boundaries and enforcing them, two different things. So setting them is the communication of them to the other person and asking that they respect things that you need for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being, right? But enforcing them is when you are going to say, here's what I'm going to do if you can't honor that, right? And if you're in a situation where that trauma bond relationship is so toxic to where when you speak up for yourself like that, it gets really bad, maybe violent or something, then go straight to the enforcing piece. Start creating space between you and that other person. Get out the house more. Stay out of that environment there more, right? Do everything you need to do to protect your mental, emotional, and physical space so you can give yourself distance away from that person to actually recalibrate, to keep your mind clear and work on the things you need to work on to keep yourself motivated towards taking those steps towards that vision and connecting to those support systems to keep slowly pulling yourself away from the toxicity and moving towards the pleasure and the happy life that you deserve. If you really need help going on your journey to move away from your trauma bond relationship, email or DM me coaching, and we will get to work if you're truly ready to put the work in. Let's get it.